Hi everybody and welcome to 2021 and VISTV. On behalf of myself and the entire Viscardi team, I'd like to wish you and yours a healthy, happy, safe, and peaceful year ahead. I hope you can join me later when I sit down with a motivating leader, Glenn Femminella, an expert in our industry, and we continue the conversations that I've been having with others on leadership, motivation, technology, and what else but COVID.
Right now, in my current capacity, we are in the office, but at times we do have to work remote. And either way, as long as you follow the guidelines to trying to get back to people, because the communication has either been whatever field it is, either email, phone call, and it hasn't been person to person. Although we do have those situations where we go out and see clients and prospects, we go out and we adhere to the current standards that are in place in order for everybody to be safe.
Well, trust is very important in communication. And I think the more we can expedite the communication, and like you said, if you cannot get that answer the first day, but you're upfront and I'll get it back to you tomorrow, I'll do my due diligence and research, it really improves that trust and creates a better relationship. So I'm assuming, and it's easy transition, that's part of leadership as well, is that communication. How do you motivate those around you? And I know you've sat on boards and in positions in the past where it does require motivation of different stakeholders, different groups.
You have to be able to be enthusiastic about what you're doing. Mm-hmm. If you're enthusiastic about what you're doing, you will get individuals to either agree with you, or if anybody has a disagreement with you, that's fine. Then let's come to a common ground so we're able to get and accomplish the task at hand. I think that is probably one of the most important things. The rest of it is when you're working with a team, you have to be willing to work and not sit in what they used to call years ago an ivory tower. Mm-hmm. So people work harder for people that they see that they work harder.
Exactly.
And that's important. I mean, I remember back in the initial days when I was managing a group of 22 people. One of the people got in 96 pieces of mail. It was a no-fault person. And they had to match it up, and they needed it set a certain way. So I came out of my office. I took the mail. I said, "How do you want it?" And I got on my hands and knees and I matched it up to every file and laid it out just the way they wanted to. And they were so dumbstruck that I turned around and was out of my office, put on my hands and knees by the desk, lining up everything for them, helping them to be able to accomplish what they needed to. They never saw anything like that. And I was working for a TA at the time.
Wow. Wow. That's not a surprise, knowing you and knowing of you. And it's interesting you have that background, because you talk about teamwork. The building of that bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge, was such a massive infrastructure project that they required the support of each other. You look at those, people behind you, they required the support of each other. So you literally are a hands-on manager. And I think that is probably, to my own process too, the biggest strength is to be hands-on and also supportive of people's needs. Everyone is different. Learning abilities are different. Work processes are different. And it really, if the country could get on board, if we could be more of teammates and team players, it would move us in a better direction.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I try to live it every day. I mean, no one is better than anyone. We're all a different clog in the wheel, but if you work together as a team, you'll accomplish so much more. We've all worked around people that I call egos, if you will. Mm-hmm. You just have to push that aside and forget about it and try to accomplish the task that you have in front of you.
Those egos come in with preconceived notions also.
They do.
You have new hires that come in with preconceived expectations of what a leader is, a manager is, and you have to break down walls oftentimes. have you ever had situations where you've had pushback or really had a problem that you had to work through?
The toughest one I had to do prior to this situation with COVID was when I was in charge of the division where I helped that young lady on the no-fault end, and 9/11 hit. And specifically, one of the clients that we had was a taxi medallion program in Manhattan, where we oversaw 3,500 medallion vehicles. And that was a very difficult time to be able to motivate people because the direction was turned to the right all the time. Mm-hmm. And you had to understand that, and you had to work with them to be able to help them get to where they needed to be. So a perfect example of that, when we got in new losses, if they were backed up and they felt overwhelmed, I said, all right, give them to me. I opened them up. I made the calls on them. I sent out the letters in their name. I did everything. I documented the files for them, and then I gave it back to them and asked them how they wanted it diaried for what they wanted to do. Yeah. And by turning around and doing it that way, they ended up getting through what they needed to do. And it helped them be able to become a little less apprehensive because of the world situation, as you will.
Exactly. You know, it's funny that there are such parallels between 9/11 and COVID in not just the insurance industry, in many business sectors. You look at the restaurants, you look at healthcare, you look at hospitals, health systems. There's definite alignments parallel to it, and a lot is based on anxiety and fear. And I think one of the biggest things that is important for a leader is to have the strength, but more so, and maybe it's the nurse in me, the acknowledgement that the fear exists, anxiety exists.
Yes, and one of the things that I'm a big proponent of is if you don't have the answer, just tell people, you know what, I don't know, let me check it out and get back to you. I have enough people I know in this industry that I could reach out and get an answer to a technical question. But a lot of people are reluctant to turn around and say, I don't know. And yeah. I don't think that's such a bad thing today.
No, and you and I, we're seasoned, let's say. I don't want to say we're mature. I don't like the word mature. We're seasoned. We're seasoned in our expertise. And I always speak to my employees. We deal with so many different injuries, types of injuries, different sectors of the industries that can go from warehousing to real estate management to an injury in a hospital. And I am always dumbfounded, taken aback, but also pleasantly surprised. We don't know all the answers. We are still 30 years in. I am still getting questions on a daily basis that I don't have the answer per se right away. But that's a good thing. That educates us more. That allows us to learn more and expand more. And I think when people, like you said, take the ego down and look at the big picture, you can learn something every day.
You know what else I find equally as important is to turn around and recognize the people that you work with, meaning that it doesn't necessarily have to be your idea for something. Sometimes you can help people to grow by helping them and facilitating the fact that show them a different way so the idea becomes theirs. Then they own it more, and it makes them look in a higher light to the bosses that you report to. And you step out of the way and you allow them to shine. And by the mere fact that they report to you, you shine. But sometimes what happens in very political environments that I've been in my career path, people want to overstep and they want to be the ones to show that they shine. And I'm just the opposite. I'd rather do it the other way. And it works wonders. It brings a team together and it helps you to help them develop skill sets within their own personality to be able to excel.
Yeah.
And let them know it's okay to not know an answer.
I'm sure the people who have crossed your path have taken away with them that support that you have given. No doubt about it.
Well, here's what can happen. I saw a situation 15, 16 years ago where a technical manager I was working with got a call from an attorney, and rather than give it back to his adjuster and go through it with his adjuster, he handled it. Now, what he did was, and I told him this at the time, he didn't see it, but I did. I said, do you realize every time that attorney calls now, they're going to bypass that person and go right to you? I said, I hope you have all this free time. And he said, oh, that won't happen. It happened. And he had to stop it down. Where what I did in my, in the history that I have worked, if somebody called me, even if I had a different opinion on how something should be handled, or let's say you had to make a business decision to pay something where after all the work the adjuster did on the thing, it had the merit to turn around and deny it. But because of the political terrain you were in with the carrier you were with, this is where they wanted to go. So they said, we're going to call this a business decision. So what I would do is if I got a call on something like that, I'd listen to the person, let them talk it all the way through, say, okay, let me look into this. I'm going to speak to Bob, Jane, Andy, whoever it would be, and I'll have them get back to you. Then I'd review it with that person, explain to them why, even though they might not agree with why we're doing it as a company, and let them call back the person and explain it to them, because that's how they continue to grow.
Exactly.
But by stepping in their way, all you're doing is creating more work for yourself.
Exactly. Long term, they're not learning. Do you think social media, because it is instant, whether it's instant gratification or the fear of not being involved at that moment, do you think that has changed anything in the industry as far as communication?
Yes, it has. From the plaintiff attorney side, it's changed what they advise their clients right up front. From the defense side, it's getting information, because how many people do you see put out on, these social media platforms? Oh, I'm going to be going away this week. Well, what are you doing? And why are you telling everybody? Or that you went to a place for a cup of coffee and now you're going to another place? I think sometimes people carry it a little too far, personally. And while it helps us in our industry as a whole, because it helps us to manage and cease any type of potential non-meritorious claims. And that's my SIU background coming out. That part of it does help, but it also helps validify claims as well. Mm-hmm. On people that are, hurt and are need to get some type of compensation. So It works both ways, but it has affected the way the industry operates. It's just that sometimes, and this is more of a personal thing, people carry it too far.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, that takes me to the next transition, which is technology in general. We now have all these platforms on social media that the industry uses some, they don't use some. But also so many things have changed with the pandemic. We really moved intensely into telemedicine, which was not something in the comp industry and the no-fault industry prior to this. And it has become the central focus of examination. Unfortunately, it doesn't add an objective physical exam. How do you feel, and what do you feel about the technological changes going on now or for 2021? What are you looking at and thinking about?
The technological changes can help on a claim if it's a follow-up visit to see how the person is feeling and being able to control any type of prescriptions that they were taking in an effort to return them to work, because that's the ultimate goal. And sometimes there are situations where the in-person visit is needed. So a lot of carriers that we've dealt with and third-party administrators and even clients will orchestrate and work with an urgent care facility in order to place on them the fact that they have a return to work program, and that if somebody comes in as injured, of course it's, help that person first and help them get themselves to maximum medical improvement. And at the same time, it helps them to be able to manage the person's expectations by laying out everything for them and being able to assist them. Because what happens at times is if somebody's just dropped and told, you got to go get yourself checked, and they go to an urgent care facility, whichever one it is, it's needed to have some type of understanding about the employer and what they're trying to do. And by the employers laying out an aggressive way of working with these urgent care facilities, it does help to drive down claims, and it helps to get people back to work. And really, that's what the goal is. But at the same point, if somebody's truly hurt, it helps them help themselves to be able to get better.
Oh, definitely. We've tracked a lot of telemedicine visits. The company is looking at driving data, taking the data, analyzing it, and then seeing where does it go. And we did find a lot of compliance with telemedicine. There were much less no-shows. There was much more compliance in the plan of care that the nurse case managers assessed with the claimant, via telemedicine. We saw a great improvement. I think it's here to stay. I don't know how the board feels long-term, but I do think their changes that they're making are in a positive direction for telemedicine.
I agree with you. And I think it's only going to enhance itself as time goes on and the technology gets even better and better.
Do you ever see independent medical examinations going that way?
I haven't really thought about that question. That's a very good idea. But now again, sometimes you have to be in front of the person to be able to see if they're actually sustaining pain or if it's something that's being facilitated by their own mind.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
exactly.
A few minutes ago, certain things that Teledoc works well with and certain things that Teledoc won't work well with. And I think in an independent medical exam, initial visit would have to be with a physician. I think if it's the follow-up, then it could be done through using the technology. But there has to be at least an initial exam, in my expectations, up front to be done in person.
Yeah.
Because I think it's needed.
Yeah. From a case management perspective, I've given it much thought, and I had a long time ago, before this technology that we're utilizing now is available. It is great for home assessments as well, to really evaluate a home, and not just in a CAT case. It could be an acute trauma case that's not catastrophic level, but it's very interesting to see homes. And, we haven't done it yet. There's a lot of rules and regs behind it, privacy, but it would really be a great tool to be used to move forward, to really understand a claimant's home. What is the safety issues?
What are restrictions? I understand. I think that's a great idea, and it's forthcoming. Yeah. It's going to, with the way everything and the technology that's driving everything, I foresee exactly what you just said.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think to see the person as a whole and understand. It also builds trust. We were talking about trust before. Trust between our case managers and claimants is so necessary to move them to MMI, to move them to return to work, and give them that sense that we are there side by side through the process.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Any topic that you feel is important currently in the workers' comp industry?
In the workers' comp industry, I think it's what we've, in my current capacity, have benefited from is working with our clients that when a loss occurs, getting out front on it, getting information up front. First, take care of that person that's hurt. Help them get to an urgent care facility. Have someone escort them to the urgent care facility. I think that's equally as important. These are processes that we put in place with our clients as long as the clients are willing to adapt to that. And by taking that upfront handling of these matters, you cut out a lot of times potential third-party overs. You cut out a lot of the nuances that could help that claim to continue to grow, and you mitigate it. And it's all from treating the person as a person and treating the client as if it's your own business. Yeah. And that's the things that we do in the capacity I'm currently in. We treat our clients' business as if it was ours. And by handling it that way, we're very upfront about certain things with the clients, but it also helps them know that even if we disagree, we actually care about the end result in order to be able to help them keep costs down. Yeah. Because every year insurance keeps going up for everybody, no matter what line.
No matter what. No matter what type, no matter what line of business. That's a known. That's something we have guaranteed.
And it becomes a cost factor because as we explain when we meet with clients and their team, that if a job calls for 40 people and the insurance cost is so high that the owner could say, well, maybe we could do it with 30. Mm-hmm. So my question to them is, which 25% of you aren't going to be here? So it's more of a situation where you can turn around and help individuals help themselves. A great example was when I ran a taxi medallion program. It was never taken on before the way we had done it for the carrier. So we turned around at any pedestrian knockdown, a bicyclist knockdown, we were all over it. We had scene diagrams done. We had individual statements taken. We knew exactly what we were dealing with, and we contacted the individual that was hurt, and we worked with them to get the medical, but under the no fault, and we worked with them, and a lot of times we controlled the claim. As a result, they got better treatment because they went to who they wanted to. We didn't tell them where to go, of course. You can't in this state, and direct the care, but what we could do is we could help them to facilitate reaching the end result, which is maximum medical improvement. And what ended up happening was we drove average claim payments so low that the industry and the actuaries that took a look at what we've done couldn't believe it. Then what we did was I got a concept of, we dealt with 5 different brokers in the area at the time. So what I decided to do is give each of them a report card on their own organization. And then I gave one every quarter listing all of them, but I didn't call them out by name. I just said A, B, C, D, E. There were only 5 of them. They knew each other, but they knew where they fell in that list. And when they didn't fall in the right spot, they would go out and they would help facilitate you getting the information you needed to get the claim resolved. And
Excellent.
It drove down average claim payments so much that we got calls from other companies wanting to know what we were doing different. And we weren't doing anything different other than just being upfront and getting things done quickly, and by providing, like I said in the beginning, customer service.
Well, it's funny. You name key components of successful operations and things we focus on all the time. 1, trust. 2, communication, compassion, yes, and your forensic skills. So when you put those all together, you can mitigate the risk, reduce the exposure, get people back to work quicker, safer, and in the case of the medallion where you have pedestrians and they're no fault, get them back to their prior MMI, whatever that MMI was. And I think the beginning, just doing everything that you did and you build that relationship with all the parties, it equals success. It will always equal success.
Thank you. And it wasn't myself, it was my team. The whole team came together, and the benefit of that was everybody had an opinion. And if we went to decide we're going to, as a group, go toward group A, we'll handle it this way. And then all of a sudden something happened and somebody else made another suggestion. We said, you know what, let's try that in this case. And we would go to group B and try it that way. Everyone owned it then. And by owning it, it made it theirs. It made them feel like they were accomplished. And at the same time, it got great results for our clients. And that was the bottom line. So it's all about teamwork. It's not about me, it's about us.
Yeah, great. That's a great way to end it, Glenn. It is all about us. Well, I thank you, Glenn, for being here very much.
Thank you for
taking
me,
the time.
and thank you for your kind words. And I look forward to working with you and your organization for a long
100%. 100%. Can't wait to see you in person and give you a true Viscardi hug. COVID style.
Looking forward. Got to get our vaccinations.
Exactly. Well, be well.
Thank you, Joan.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.